So welcome back to the Lovefly Podcast, and today we've got a bit of special. This is Wes part 2. So those who have heard the Wes before telling his story, but we've got an extra guest as well. We've got Wes and Kelly here. So, and the point of this is we're going to get Wes's story, and then Kelly going to tell if he's telling the truth or not, and say no, he didn't. That's not what happened. And so we just thought there'd be a really novel twist to it. So welcome to both of you.
Hiya.
Good to see you again. Good to see you again.
So to give us a sort of a potted, not your history, but a potted history of like where you got to from last time. So if people are coming and going, I don't remember if I heard Wes part 1. Where were you? And what's different about Wes part 2?
Sure. Okay. So part 1 was very much about telling the story of where I'd got up to and my sort of history of where my fear of flying had come from. So it's probably been, it was our honeymoon in 2012.
Yeah.
And that was the last time that I had done a long haul flight until last month. So that was the last time I'd done a long haul flight. But prior to that, in the years before, it'd been building and building in terms of this fear, where everything had stemmed from having a really bad experience. One particular flight coming back across the Atlantic, I think it was coming back from the Dominican, and it was just really bad turbulence that just scared me, and I didn't know what it was. I've never experienced anything like that before. And so that had knocked me severely at that point. And then since then was just waiting for it, looking for it, not enjoying it. And it always seemed to be the same when it was coming back across the Atlantic, doing trips to the US and similar. So yeah, our honeymoon, we went over to the US, did an amazing trip. It was one of the best holidays ever, if not the best holiday ever. And
you nodded then, so that's a good sign.
Yeah. And it was kind of like came back from there, and then whenever opportunities then came up in the future from there, I just decided that I didn't want to put myself through it. So it was very much an aggravation of the turn that I was either waiting for, wasn't sure how long it was going to last, if it was going to come at all, and if it did, how bad was it going to be and how long for. So I just didn't want to put myself through that situation of waiting for it, and it did my head in constantly. So knowing that all you're doing is sitting there being belted in. Short flights were fine. We would do Turkey regularly 2 times a year. I'd flying a lot with work through Europe and things like that. And so again, it was like those shorter flights I could deal with. I still had a consciousness of it. And if it was turbulent, it was always like a genuine fear. What is it? Fight or flight or freeze. I was freeze.
Yeah.
Because that very much a kind of right, I'm just waiting for it to stop now.
We have periods before the holiday where I wouldn't sleep.
Oh, yeah.
In the period running up to, we'd be getting more and more anxious, leading up to the holiday to where you were struggling sleeping and being quite worried about going.
Okay.
You've never not done it.
Yeah, it never stopped me from flying. I just started to avoid the long haul because
so this would impact on you as well, then, Kelly. I guess you'd see that.
Yeah, well, I'd be aware of it. I don't think he told me fully how anxious he probably was, because he knew I'd be like, it's fine, just get on. It's not about, I'm not an anxious person, and I'm not anxious about flying. So for me, I'm like, you're getting anxious about something that probably isn't going to happen. It's wasted emotional almost in that sense for me, because you're worrying about, something that probably is not going to be an impact for you, and you're just going to sit on your flight and really enjoy your holiday. So I knew he was nervous about it, but I didn't know how to sort of be more compassionate, because I didn't understand it, and I still don't really.
Yeah.
But listening to somebody say that as well, as a nervous fly, when you're thinking about that, it's like all these things, you just can't switch it off, and that's what makes it even infuriating. It's to switch that off that's really tricky. So it was very much then a case of there was always 2 parts to it. One was the lead up to it, as Kel was saying, and it would be in the weeks coming up to it, or from the time of booking, and then as it got closer, thinking about is it going to be bad or not? How am I going to be? And even in the back of your mind, you've got these even worse thoughts sometimes. And it was always more when I was really tired that it would, the end of the day was the worst for me. In the morning, I'd be ready to sort of, go for it. And then, there was kind of points where it was like even thinking, well, I've never had a panic attack, but what if I have a panic attack? What if I let the girls down when we're stood literally waiting to board and my legs go? Well, I've never had, but what? Because you hear about that happening to other people who obviously have heavier fear than that. So it was kind of leading up to work. Things have always been possibly transatlantic. So a lot of the places I've worked at have been either headquarters in the US, conferences in the US, and then there's always holiday destinations that we'd like to go to as well. So we've always talked about places like Vietnam and Thailand and stuff like that. So there's other parts of the world that we still want to go and try to go to, or want to go and travel to as well. And so I've always known that this is something that I need to deal with, because the only other option is basically saying you're never going to do those things again. And it was just more finding the right mental state to be ready to do it, and the right timing for things that were relevant in terms of either work or holiday opportunities. So we got up to the point then on part one where it was basically the weeks before. I think it was 4 weeks before we were going, or when we did the last podcast, it was a little bit of time before we were going, and I had a work trip opportunity. It was the first international work trip for the company that I started with almost a couple of years ago. And so it was my dream job. I knew all this kind of stuff would be there. So it wasn't something to avoid. It was just something that I'll deal with it when I need to deal with it. And so this trip came up. It's one that had been cancelled a couple of times before over the last couple of years as well, where we were supposed to all meet up in the US. And I'd ended up having to, at one point, say to my boss that actually I've got a bit of an issue here. I'm not sure if COVID's made it worse or what, because we didn't do any travel.
Right.
But ended up having to say to her, I'm really sort of having a bit of a struggle at the moment with whether I can. It's been a while since I've done it. And she actually shut me down at that point, just saying, don't worry about it. You don't need to be here. It's not essential for you to be here at this point, so don't worry about that. But then that trip got cancelled. So another trip came up.
So you confessed for nothing.
I did, yeah, which was even... and I possibly could have done it in the end. I guess I don't know at the time. But then another trip came up. That one got cancelled, and then this one came up, and it was like the sentiment around work was, this is not going to get cancelled again. And so it was like, I've got 2 or 3 months to plan for this. I've been spending the best part of a year working at this, with things like podcasts, things like the Fear of Flying course that you did, like the 30-day course, visiting Manchester Airport and just sitting by the runway watching things go, doing a little 4-seater plane trial pilot, flight, where Kel and I both got to try flying this little plane, and it was bobbling over the forests and stuff. So I'd done all sorts and spent a year really working hard at it, and felt that this was the thing, like this was the time now to really prove it and show that you can go back to do this and get back to what I see as normal. So that was where we were leading up to. And then I felt like also putting myself forward for the podcast was also an opportunity then to say, I've got a commitment now. This is part one.
Yeah, accountability. Yeah.
Came into So, and then the other thing that came up with the work trip was there was the opportunity for the girls to come as well. And so they would be able to come along to the trip where we were going to Atlanta. But also I had loads of holiday to use up by the end of the year. And so we could actually tag a little holiday on the end. What we ended up was actually tagging on a little holiday to Orlando as well at the end of it. So it was like dream holiday, girls coming as well, which kind of gave me a little bit of a comfort blanket, if I'm honest, because it was kind of like not just me sitting there like I have done for so many times before, not enjoying the flight, sat there on your own, potentially literally sat on your own, but potentially sat amongst strangers. But this time it was with, closest people to me. Unfortunately, my eldest daughter couldn't make it, so it wasn't a full all 4 of us. She just started college. So Sophie couldn't make it, but Kel and Evie could. So it was great opportunity, all building up, into the right timing, etc. And then it was also my birthday just before the opportunity as well. So just before the trip. So we said, well, why don't we make it so that, let's fly on my birthday as well. That maybe adds a little bit of novelty to it. Never done that before. Yeah. good for you. We can explain why.
Yeah.
And then also we did something else different, which was we stayed at the airport the night before. So instead of getting up silly early, not sleeping great the night before, we went to the airport the night before. We got to check in the bags the night before, and then just slept in the hotel, and then just crossed the road and into the airport first thing. Yeah. Nice. Although you guys were up at 5 a.m, excited. I got to stay in bed till 7, 8 o'clock. And
no, it just takes all that stress away from the start. It was really, really good. I would definitely do that again if I was flying. We've never done it before. It was really stress-free. It was good. Yeah.
I don't know why we do it to ourselves, but we kind of, because it says it will be there before, then it's actually, well, I could decide to be there a whole day before if I want to, but we don't give ourselves permission to do that, but obviously you did.
Yeah. No, it was a real good idea, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Despite being woken up at 5 by an excited 9-year-old.
Yeah.
The rest was really good.
So again, we were flying with Virgin, and I specifically booked them knowing from past flights with them, they've been really good reputation. It all worked out in terms of the times and the flights that we wanted to do, etc. So, we kind of had that morning. It was about 11 o'clock, wasn't it? The flight in the morning,
something like that. Yeah.
And the flight out was 9 hours. So I know there was a bit of a slight. They said it took slightly longer because the jet streams were slowing them down on the way out. So I remember talking to the staff at one point, and they were sort of saying, it's taken ages for us, and we were kind of hoping we'd be there sooner, but so it was 9 hours out. But this flight, and I guess I'll start with splitting my fear, that previous fear into two. It was always the lead up to it, and then the flight itself.
Yeah,
the lead up to it, I had the weeks of thinking about it a lot, but I had also spent the months before, and then we paused it because I didn't have a flight, and the other one got delayed, got cancelled, the other trip. But I paused it earlier in the year where I'd started doing the tapping therapy. So there'd been a point where I tried doing a talking therapy before, and what they kind of came to was this decision that it was perhaps more likely that I needed to treat it more as a trauma incident that I'd been through, as opposed to another method or other ways. And so this tapping therapy was one that I'd kind of looked into. There was somebody local who did it. And it just seemed to dial things down. And so you try and recreate like the thoughts and feelings and the sort of picturing of the situation, etc. And then you would tap on like with your hands on your legs from side to side, and it would be trying to I think it was locking in certain feelings, and then it was trying to sort of remove.
So it sounds a bit like I'm not sure if you did thought field therapy where you've done EMDR.
EMDR.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because when you said the legs, then I was like, that sounds like, because the tapping is like specific points around the body.
All right.
Like emotional freedom and thought field therapy. So EMDR. Yep. Okay. Good. Yeah.
It was more left and right, and it's something to do with getting the left and right side of your brain to sort of process. And the first part of it was processing what had happened originally, dialing the thoughts of that down, etc. And then the second part of it was dialing in calmness. So certain triggers for me, where it would be the light coming on for the seatbelt sign, or it would be the captain coming on saying, sorry, it's just one of them nights tonight, like I've heard before we've even left the tarmac. It would be, the crew getting strapped in because it's a bit heavier and things like that. And those kind of things would trigger me. So having then the sort of the EMDR to think about those triggers, but remaining in a calm state, it was then being able to sort of practice that. And then when the real thing happens, it seemed to it had dialed down completely. It was just quiet.
Yeah, there's a good evidence base for EMDR. So I'm glad you found something like that.
Yeah. And I previously tried, hypnotherapy, which just continued listening to things all through the night. My brain just didn't stop, and I had to stop that at the time. The talking therapy.
Presumably, then Kelly would have to listen to that as well, or did you have it on headphones?
It was on headphones, yeah.
Yeah, that's quite tricky, isn't it? You have to get relaxed with a set of headphones on.
Yeah. So in the time leading up, this was helping to dial things down, but I still had those, it was always the evening time, work had finished, getting tired, but I was recognizing that as well. So having that recognition of the times in the day that would cause that to sort of feel stronger.
Yeah.
The thoughts were more repetitive, etc. And then as long as I could get to sleep, and pretty much most of the time I would, 1 or 2 nights here and there where I didn't, but as long as I could get to sleep, in the morning again, I would be fresh and I would be like, I am going to do it. I am ready for this. This is the one. I've done all that work. You know, this is it. And we're going to have a great time. So the flight itself then came, and the night before in the hotel, slept pretty much okay. It was all kind of calm. I think it always seems like the time before is worse than the sort of the time itself when it comes. And then, yeah, we got up, went on the plane. I remember we were stood around. It was delayed maybe a little bit, quarter of an hour, half an hour. Stood around looking at this thing. Stood, you know. Like,
so let me just interrupt you a sec there.
Yeah.
I want to give Kelly. So what was Wes like for you observing him? Was he the same? Was he different?
What me and my daughter decided to do was go for maximum humiliation on his birthday to distract him from the fact that he was going to fly. So we got him an inflatable.
And we just get this. So maximum humiliation is the technique, folks.
Yeah. So basically, we dressed him up for his birthday.
Obviously, as
he had a crown on, had the same birthday boy. So we were walking through the airport, and he didn't get time to get inside his own head really, because he was having to say thank you to everybody, wishing him a happy birthday.
That's hilarious.
So. We had to make a little bit of a fuss. I mean, we know flying isn't his favourite thing. He's spending his entire day of his birthday on a flight. Yes, we're going to do loads of cool stuff when we get up, but he's still spending that day sitting on a plane. So we wanted to make a little bit of a fuss.
Yeah.
A little bit of a fuss. So I think some of that perhaps distracted him slightly.
Yeah.
That made you feel wet.
It was a distraction, yeah.
Yeah, but we thought, we wouldn't normally do this to him, but we'll do it today.
Make the most of it. Yeah, exactly.
Probably it'll turn into a little bit of a laugh, and he'll take away any tension that's there. So that's what we did. But yeah, I kept checking in, and are you all right? How are you feeling? And he was, and I don't want to keep doing that, because if I keep doing that and he's feeling all right, I don't want to put him back in the state where he's like, oh, I'm nervous now. So whilst I want to check he's okay and make sure he's feeling calm and he's not getting stressed out, I don't want to keep putting that thought back in his head by asking all the time either.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was good. There wasn't a massive amount of waiting around. There would, like I say, we had no stress from absolute check-in or anything like that. So the airport experience was really nice, actually. You don't have to say that often about Manchester Airport, but it was, and it was really quiet. Yeah. So that massively helped.
Yes.
On that point, though, when you say that about for the other person, and I don't know how many people will be able to relate to this, but when you've got a partner or someone else who is, you kind of, whether you want them to check in with you or help you or not, I found it that there's nothing they can do for you. It is something that is just your bad wiring in the brain sort of thing. So there isn't anything that she's going to be able to say or do, as far as I know, that's going to actually, just delete it or stop it or, help. It's just.
So what is it you want? Because I mean, Kelly, you sound like you're pretty self-aware that you were sort of saying, I want to check on him, but I also don't want to then put thoughts back in his head. So you're kind of thinking very thoughtfully about.
Yeah, but I also don't want to not asking him think I don't care either. So I do.
Tricky.
So yeah.
There's a balance.
Yeah, there is definitely a balance.
Yeah. Okay. So then, so flight itself was 9 hours long. It was, the first time in a long time we'd been on a wide body plane as well. It was one of the older ones. I think it was a 330, the Virgin one. So it wasn't I was hoping it was going to be like one of the new ones, like a Dreamliner or something. I start to see something a bit geeky because I've been obviously looking at planes these days and what that looks like. But it was an old one, but it was still, big plane, lovely sized. We had the screens, which we've probably not had screens for a long time either, from just doing Turkey and European. Yes. I'd prepared all sorts, not just for me, but for Evie as well, with things we could watch, games we could play, stuff we could do. These guys had also packed an entire carry-on case with presents that I was given to open as well, again, as distraction.
Yeah.
So, and again, all of this kind of added up to those what can you do to be armed and prepared for just find yourself, keeping yourself in a good state, good calm state. And the flight itself was really good. I couldn't have even, it flew, like, to use the pun, it flew by. It really did, for 9 hours. And I don't even think I watched more than one movie the whole 9 hours, because we were either chatting away. I was just kind of, aware of what was going on, paying attention, enjoying the things that were going on. There were a couple of times when the seatbelt signs came on about 6 hours in, I think it was.
But we didn't even get any turbulence, really.
You agreed to disagree.
I would not.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? So the perception difference between the two. You're both on the same flight. For Wes, there's turbulence. For you, there isn't.
Yeah.
So I had a little journal going where I was trying to tick off. I can't remember who it was on one of the other podcasts who'd mentioned about their hourly tick off, which I thought was a great idea. And so I had that in my little notebook, and I was trying to just, every now and then, I thought every hour I'll write how I'm feeling and see if I could reflect back on that. And so I wrote something in here about, it said, so with about 3 hours to go, seatbelt signs came on. And after we'd already had some mild to moderate bumps, I so had it under control, is what I'd said. I've learned that even if I'm triggered, and I'm definitely not triggering anywhere near as much as I used to, I've now learned to use my breathing and observations across the body to just tell my stupid brain that it's fine. So even though it was, and I thought it was mild to moderate, but probably was mild. But yeah, it was well, and then I wrote another one. So about an hour and a half to go, another round of turbulence, again, mild to moderate in my opinion, but the stronger parts were shorter. Seatbelt signs came on. Neither of them caused me any issue at all. It occurred to me that it could get worse, but I was just ready to ride it through and enjoying the music I was listening to at the time. I was even tucking into a jam and cream scone, I remember, at that point, while it was bumping along. And
so it was that moment they were still serving hot drinks.
Yeah. So
if they're serving hot drinks,
yeah,
you're not in for a rough time, unless something untoward happens, which I don't think happens very often. If they're serving hot drinks, you're fine, aren't you?
Yeah.
So why are you not scared?
I don't know. I'm not anxious generally about anything. I think I'm probably quite lucky in that regard.
Yeah.
I am more conscious of flying since I've become a mum, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm definitely more conscious if we fly without our daughter. But when we're all together, and I wouldn't even call that an anxiety, I'm just aware of it. But yeah, I'm just not bothered. For me, all I was bothered about going on this flight was I going to be bored? And then if Evie got bored, how was I going to stop her being bored? And that was my concern on the flight. And the flight, both of them actually, were amazing flights. They were really good ones for Wes to use as a practice transatlantic flight, because they were amazing.
Yeah.
Like, brilliant. It went really fast. The service was so good that there was something going on regularly, so time just went by and you didn't even notice. And I said when I got off that flight that even though that flight had been double and a bit what we're used to with our Turkey flight, which is 4 hours, it felt like it had gone a lot faster. So I loved it. I thought it was a great flight.
Yeah.
I could have happily gone a bit further before I was ready for getting off, which I don't ever say, ever, because I'm like, get me off. But,
yeah, you just get bored, that's it.
Bored, yeah. I just want to get out. But no, good.
I had a visualization in my mind, like the feeling to beat it, to do that flight, and just basically looking in a mirror somewhere and just looking at yourself and going, yes, you did it. And the feeling inside, the feeling that it's like when I win a squash match or something else, and I know something amazing has happened, and that what that feels like, and I could visualize and I could literally feel what that would feel like, and so he was thinking about that, prior to actually doing it, and it was wanting to be able to do that, wanting to be able to say to yourself that you've beaten it, and all of those things just added together. So having the distractions, having the girls with me, being my birthday, having done all that work for the year before, everything just all slotted into place, and it all just felt the right thing. And having those sort of tools to use if you needed them, they were there in the kit bag if you needed them. But again, it went really well. So successful. it was basically part 2 summary at this point is, we did the flight. I beat the fear. Absolutely, was so pleased about it. However, there was also another little thing in the back of my mind, twist to the story. There was always this little thing in the back of my mind that it was always on the way home from America. That's when it really did my head in. That was when it was bumpy, with the jet streams coming back over. So it was always that little wiggle in the back of my mind saying, you've just done it. You had some months on the way. You've done 9 hours. It'll be shorter on the way back anyway, but will it be worse on the way back? And it was like trying to quieten that one down was the only remaining bit for the holiday. But we had a couple of weeks. And I've got to say, over the course of that 2 weeks, in terms of that anticipatory anxiety stuff that we talked about previously, it was just hardly there at all because...
Oh, amazing.
And it was always the same, I think, with trips. Typically, once I've done the outward, the inward flight was kind of always was better. It was like less.
Because it can be the opposite for a lot of people. They talk about, they prepare so well for the first flight, they clear off on holiday, and then they go, oh crap, got to fly back again. And they suddenly realise that they get themselves in a bit of a state, or they stop enjoying the holiday.
Yeah. Would I be bothered stuck in America? Probably not. Would I be bothered stuck in Turkey? Probably not.
No, I would be fine.
Yeah, I'd spent 2 weeks trying to persuade these guys to move out there, so it was,
I'm getting more and more convinced by the day with how cold it is here.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a sort of over there. Yeah, okay. So this is a great one. Okay, so when you think about yourself in terms of the nervous flyer bit, how do you talk about yourself now, Wes?
Now I changed the language now. So one of the things that I did with the therapist, in terms of when I did the EMDR as well, was she would reprimand me for using the wrong language anyway. So I'd almost get shouted at. So it was basically like, if I used that wrong terminology and made it sound like there was a doubt in the way I was saying it, I recognized that. That was kind of, as far as me wanting to change my mindset, you've got to change the language that you use. So I now refer to, I'm back to normal doing the things that I used to do. I beat my fear to be able to do that actual trip in the first place, both, there and back, with some bumps along the way. I know I did all of that work for, to lead up to that, to make it happen. And, that was the return. I needed to do that work and try and learn more about what things are, to learn about how to control, my body, feelings, breathing, etc. And so, when the next opportunity, do I think, I'm brutally honest about it. Do I think or will I not think about it when the next trip comes up? I think I will, but it's more, I know how to handle that. I know what to recognize. I know how I react, and then what I do about my reaction.
Yes.
I can't say like I'm going looking for the opportunities to go, engineer ways of getting out and fly long haul every week when I can, which, it isn't abnormal for the stuff we do with work. We're in a global team, and if it had to be, like the different customers that we have could be anywhere. So I just happen to have, probably a lot that goes on around UK and Europe. So yeah, I think it's one of those where I now have the tools to be able to work my way through these things, and I've proven it. I know how to do it. So I am back to normal is my term.
I like that. So not quite former nervous flyer, but not far off by the sound of it.
Yeah, I think I would say, I mean, I what I didn't want to do though was have, and again, talking to Sally, my EMDR therapist, it was kind of trying not to have this as just another milestone, and then, well, what about next time then? What about when it's a flight that is really quite bumpy? And it's like, doesn't matter. This is back to normal now. This was the milestone, and from here on, that's the continuation. It's not like what about next time? What about the one after that? Yeah. It shouldn't be the case now. It can't be the case, because then you're kind of setting another goal, another target, or another wall to get over, and that should be the case. Yeah.
Okay, so then this is all great stuff. So I'm just going to plant a little marker here. So at the end, I'd like you to sort of sum up your favourite tips or things that people can do in terms of helping themselves if they're listening to it. But I think we've got the gift of Kelly being here now, and I want to, to understand a little bit from your world what it's like being with a nervous former nervous flyer, and because some people have split up over this.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not suggesting this is a course of action, by the way. I'm just saying.
No, I'll keep him. So no, I mean, we've sort of joked about. Well, I think he was joking, but we sort of said, what would happen if he sort of got to the airport and then couldn't get on a flight? What would you do? And I've sort of joked and said, well, I'll see you in 2 weeks. Because we can't, we love going to different places. We love traveling. We say we go adventuring, and we like doing different things.
Yeah.
And I'd be really sad if we got to a point where we couldn't do that anymore, because that is something that we've always enjoyed doing together. So for me, I'm really happy that he's done this. One, because we got a brilliant time in America.
Mm-hmm.
Also, because this shouldn't be like a shadow hanging over him every time we think we want to go somewhere.
Yeah.
I find it weird that he thinks the short haul flights are better, because I found this long haul flight better than any of the short haul flights I've done in a long time.
In what way?
Just because of how easy it was, the service on board, how fast that flight went, because there was just someone coming around all the time, have a drink, have this, bringing sweets round at the end. They had Evie, our daughter, dressed up in a Virgin Atlantic uniform, going around with a trolley at one point.
Handing out ice lollies.
Yeah, they were working. So she was loving it and got some free sweets out of it at the end. And it was just a very nice, calm experience. And even on the way back, my TV didn't work on the way back. So in theory, I had no entertainment at all. And do you know what? I didn't even miss it. It was such a good set of flights, and that's why I said they were really good ones for Wes to try. So yeah, I'd be really sad if we couldn't travel anymore. Like I said, there's places that we do want to go and see, and I'm sure we will encounter some bumpiness at some point. But I mean, I've had a flight that I didn't like, and I was very glad when we got off. But that was years and years ago, and it would never stop me getting on another flight, and that's the difference, I think.
Because that could have been enough to trigger you into a nervous flyer. So there's obviously something about your thought process that didn't allow that to happen.
No, I think if Wes had been on that flight, he would have not liked that at all. So we were basically flying into Turkey, went over a mountain range, and it's hot, and we were bumping around. It felt like we were going up and down. And I know. Well, I didn't know that then. I know that now. I'm listening to your podcast with Wes, but at the time, that I did not enjoy that at all. And when we landed, I was like, that was awful. I did not like that flight. It didn't feel safe. But I got straight back on the flight and came home, and then I flew back forwards and back route twice, 3 times a year. No drama.
So this is really interesting, you see, because I talk to a lot of people who are nervous flyers, and I talk to people all the time who are not nervous flyers, but I don't get a chance to say to them, by the way, why are you not scared? So what do you think you do that's different to a nervous flyer? Because what you've just described, that could have been enough to send a lot of people into that.
Yeah. I don't actually know. I don't dwell on things. I don't overthink things that I have no control over. Because for me, if I can't control it, I don't like not being in control, but I can't fly a plane. So I need to trust that the people that are flying this plane and the crew and everyone are there doing the job, and it's fine. If the crew look nervous, I wouldn't be happy with that. But the fact that we're strapped in, our belts are on, and everyone else is just wandering around doing their own thing, and I know nothing's going to happen. So I don't overthink in the way that I think Wes does. Because what's the point? I can't change it. There's no point in me getting all upset about something that might not happen. Just don't do that. So I don't know if that's the difference.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Whether we're just wired up differently, that he's naturally a more anxious person than I am.
But I only have anxiousness around this. I have had anxiousness around this with this topic. I'm not an anxious person generally, in my opinion.
not convinced. So just a little bit. This is very
Look, I'm not trained in couples therapy, right? So let's just keep it safe.
Things like Wes doesn't particularly like the dentist. I don't care about going to the dentist. Just little things like that where I'm just not anxious about stuff. It is what it is, and that's. But I know I'm probably lucky that I am that way, because I'd hate to be, worried about day-to-day things on a day-to-day basis. And, I want to go on holiday. I want to go and do stuff. I'm trying to wrangle a little flight around the NC 500 at the moment, but I haven't told him yet. And he knows now.
I think he knows, yeah.
So, just still think that it's good fun. So,
yeah. So,
yeah, I'm not scared.
I find that really interesting, because it is because sometimes we spend so much time thinking about. I talk to so many people saying, "How did you get over it?" and not enough talking to people who don't have it. So that's why I said to you, "Why are you not scared?" Because I'm not either, but I can't work out why. But I'm probably, I am prone to overthinking stuff, but I just not when it comes to flying. I suppose I just trust what's going on, and I know what's going on.
Yeah,
maybe that helps. I don't know. So what about the sort of the support side of it? Because it feels like you found quite a good way to be with Wes. And so some people, when they listen, they want to give some advice to their partners about what they need and stuff. So we're wondering between you whether you might have hit on something which is a kind of a helpful way to people to still stay happy despite having this shadow.
No, what do you think?
I think it's probably good to ask the other person. So from your perspective, to say to me, how do you want me to regularly check in, or do you want me to just leave you to it and deal with it? Because obviously some people are going to deal with it in different ways. I guess in my response to that, I'd probably say to her, I'll let you know if I'm really struggling with it. Otherwise, I'm on with it, and I think I'm dealing with it in the way that I think is right. I'm not sure that there's anything that you can really help me with, but if I need it, I'll ask for it. I think that's sort of how I would.
Yeah, and so the same really. I'll check in and make sure he's okay, but I'm not going to be in his face asking every 2 minutes and making a big deal of it. Really, sort of I'm not going to do that. I'm not that type of person anyway. I think that made me sound a bit harsh in that last podcast, but it's probably true. Because that is sort of my approach. Like, look, we're going on holiday. If you want to go to these places that are good, you need to get on the plane. So you need to deal with it. And that's the truth. You do.
Yeah.
You're not driving anywhere exotic from the UK. You're just not. So that's how it is. And it's...
No, I don't think it sounds harsh. I just think it sounds just quite pragmatic. It's matter of fact.
Yeah. I think that from my perspective, you have to try and work out what is it that you want. Like, do you want to beat it? Do you want to be normal again? Do you want to be able to travel to places? Do you want to fully take advantage of the opportunities that come to you in terms of holiday opportunities? Do you want to go to holidays in places that you've dreamed of? And in my case, it was like, do I want to prove to myself that I can do this? I remember there's a thing with, I think it was a Tony Robbins thing where it's like he goes in the cold bath or the cold shower every day. And I've had the same. I remember being at work. We were at a work event once, and they had Bear Grylls as a motivational speaker, and they talk about that fear muscle and how you train that. And it's like when you've got an ice bath or a cold shower in front of you, and you step into that, that's you telling yourself, like, I say when we go, I'm in charge. I say when we go. I'm in control in that sense. So I kind of wanted to prove to myself almost that it's me, that I'm in control of this, not letting it take over, which it had done for a long time. And ultimately, I also wanted to let the girls have an amazing time as well. I wanted to, again, it was an opportunity to take. Yeah. We talked about it. I just couldn't let them down. So it was, potentially a once in a lifetime thing that we'd get to do, to go and take even to Disney and things like that. So
I love the fact you've got a combination of really good things here. Having done the preparation, which is key. Even if you're not bothered, you still have to prepare to go away, because it's you have to think ahead and plan. You've done all your prep. You've also got lots of reasons, compelling reasons to want to do it, not wanting to let people down, but also wanting. So you've got lots of things you don't want, the consequences, and you've also got the reward things to move towards. So there's And also, you've got Kelly the Rock in the corner, who's just going to be quite straight down the line about it. And I think it seems like there's a little bit of wisdom here that you probably don't realise, that you found a way to navigate this where you can show that you do care, but you're not going to over care to the point where he loses his ability to just fight it himself, which is what Wes wants. And,
because I'm not, whenever he does these work flights, I'm not always going to be there. So he is going to be travelling on his own, probably a lot more than he travels with us.
Yeah.
He's not going to always have someone there asking if he's okay. And
no, he could wear his lucky crown though, couldn't he?
He could wear his lucky crown. I think we might make that a new law.
The flying crown.
The flying crown.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
I can.
I want to see a picture of that. I think actually for this podcast episode, we need a picture of you in your
I'll have a picture, don't you worry.
Yeah, the most humiliation, I think, is the best recipe. I think that's what you'd really like, Wes, is just to share that on all the social media, isn't it?
That's good with me.
Like a king, didn't you?
Yeah.
I think that's fantastic. So can I ask a question, which is probably a little bit, maybe, how did you? Let me tell you why I'm going to ask this. The thing about people with couples have got somebody's anxious about something and somebody isn't. This often can be a little bit of judgment and stuff like that. And I wondered how you were able to just sort of stay down the line with it and not, like to think less of him and to get all judgy and, telly. Some people have got that and it's created massive problems in relationships. What was your kind of approach to that?
I think he judges himself more harshly than I would. He sort of saw it as a bit of a weakness and didn't. It's just something that you do that, you need to stop it. You're doing your own head in for no reason. And for his benefit, he needed to stop it. So it hasn't impacted me so far in terms that we've had things planned and he's not been able to go or anything. We have just local with Evie being younger. So, I am really glad he did this. I'm really proud of him as well, that he did these flights and managed to do it and wasn't overly nervous. I mean, even sitting, looking out at the plane when we were ready to get on it, still really calm. And I think he's done really, really well. And to do it in one holiday as well. I think he's done a great job. But yeah, no judgment from Will, just because he's not as tough as me.
It's an annoying, it's a frustrating thing though. It's like, you do feel it is a weakness or a fault of yours, and I genuinely, I look back and think like it's the only thing that's ever held me back in life, and it was like I wanted to get rid of that. So having to sort of find ways to do that, you've got to find what are those ways that you can use to get over that, if that's something you want to defeat and you want to get over it. And similarly, it wasn't just with you as well. It was like, you hear people saying, I don't want to pass this on to the kids. And out later, you or someone had mentioned it to Eve, and she was mocking me for it, a 9-year-old mocking me for it. So it's like, I can't have that. I've got my eldest daughter, Sophie. She was like, she listened. I sent her the link to the podcast. I hadn't told her about any of this or, and any of the past stuff. And she listened to this podcast and she was like, she said she was in tears. She was kind of like, she was so proud of me. And, at first when I gave her the link thinking, she's going to think, all right, wuss. But yeah, she was very supporting as well, very positive. All of you, apart from Evie, who just mocked me, but you and Sophie were both very supportive on it and sort of saying, you're going to smash it. You're going to do it. You're going to be great. And you've done all this work for it. And yeah, that helped.
And I was going to say, was that helpful? Is that what you needed?
Yeah, it was hearing somebody, reaffirm that you have done a lot of work towards this. So I heard that from multiple people, from Cal, from Sophie, from therapist, just saying you've done the work for this, and yeah, you're going to be fine. No, you are. Yeah. So that had a little bit extra encouragement to sort of reaffirm what you're thinking at the time.
Yes, there's a nice balance, and what I'm taking from it, something that you said there, Kelly, was that Wes is sort of harder on himself than you ever would be. And there seems like there's quite a lot of respect and no judgment at all. That though Wes described it as he felt like it was some sort of weakness, whereas you didn't see it like that. It was just a thing.
I think most people have a thing that they're not keen on, or It doesn't have to be a fear even, just something they don't like doing, and that was his, and that's fine. You don't have to be good at everything all of the time. So, if flying is his weakness, then that's okay. He's getting there, and it's not so much of a weakness now, so it's fine. Lots of people don't work on themselves when something happens; they just stop doing that thing.
Yes.
No, he hasn't done that, which I think is great.
Yeah, and that kind of it creates respect as well, doesn't it? Because all of us it's so easy to back away from stuff through fear, imagining the worst, and to move towards it like you've done. I think that's phenomenal.
It reminds me, when you hear little nuggets when people say things. I don't know where I heard this one from, but it was about courage is not about not being afraid. It's about being afraid of doing it anyway. So yeah, it's learning to deal with what afraid is to you and trying to, in my case, it was dialing that down that was acceptable for me to go ahead and do it, something that I just avoided. So
you either quoting Kelly or Bear Grylls there? I don't know who it was.
Probably.
We're pretty much the same person.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So just to sort of wrap up, because this has been great, and I really enjoyed having the extra dimension of your view on it, Kelly, because I think it's something we wanted to do for a while, to sort of think, what can people do? And I think you've given us some really nice ideas around that. So let's just do a sort of like a sum up then. Like, what's the sort of wisdom we're going to pass on to others from any angle? So it could be techniques that you found helpful, Wes, but also this general sort of being a family unit, and any tips around that?
I think for me, I find, especially people who might be traveling with small children, whatever, I found the airport process can be quite stressful. So if you're already quite anxious and then you're doing all of that airport process, it's not a nice. It's like one of the things you've got to do is to get to where you want to go, sort of thing. So that for me is the worst part for me, and it's just because it's tedious.
Yes.
So I found this time, the staying overnight the night before, definitely took away a lot of that stress, because you're already there. You don't have to worry about an accident on the motorway, getting to the airport late. Yeah. All of that stress is gone. So that, I think, is really, really good. And also, which is going to sound a bit backward, I think doing a longer haul flight is probably better as a first flight than a short flight. And that is because there are so many distractions on a long flight that you don't even realise that the hours are just flying by, and you're there. I've sat sort of tapping my fingers on a 3-hour flight before board, wanting to get off. And the longer one, because of the way the flights are structured and the service, just went so much faster.
Yeah.
Just a much nicer environment as well. There will be airlines that are a lot plusher than Virgin, but Virgin were amazing. They were so good. So I think booking a little budget flight as a test flight, I'm not sure is the right way to go really now. I'm doing.
No, I think I'm with you there, Kelly, because I think some of the shorter flights, you feel a bit like cattle. You get rushed on and you're shoved in, and then there's nothing to do, and off you get the other end, and they're trying to sell you paninis all the way over there.
Yeah, no, and it's just much nicer having a proper meal brought to you, and it's just nice. And that'd break up a long flight, and you're done, and it's a nice experience.
Oh, that's good. I like that. I like that tip. The long haul flight, I think that's a really good idea to suggest that, because some people are thinking I can only do 4 hours. A lot of people said I'll only do 4 hours. I'm going to work up to. And I don't know what it is in their mind that's the difference between 4, 6, 8 hours in terms of safety, but something it's a sort of a barrier for people. You're just like smashing through it. No, go long. Go long.
Go long.
Yeah.
Then you can do anything, can't you?
Yeah.
But it was always my sort of issue in my brain was about it being the long haul flights coming back from the US. They were always the ones I just really didn't enjoy. And so the timing thing tended to just tie into that, because it was those longer ones. It was thinking about, because we're going in the jet streams, etc. And it wasn't a safety thing. It wasn't that I thought we were going to die or crash or anything like that. It was I didn't want to do the discomfort and having to put up with that anxiety feeling in the lead up to it and on the flight, stopping with that flight and freeze thing. Just didn't want to put myself through it. That was more of it. So when we come to like the summary stuff, it was one of the key ones to me that I write all these down and try and use them more as like a mantra thing, I suppose, in the techniques that I was picking up as what I would use in my toolkit. And one of the main ones was like, what makes you believe it's okay? You have to find what is it that makes you believe it's okay. And that to me was a whole list. Came up with like a whole list here. But, well, I'm taking the girls with me for a start. I'm not going to put them in any kind of jeopardy, discomfort, whatever. I seem to be fine that they're going. It's obviously my issue to get rid of. It's what I would tell other people that it's okay. If I was trying to sort of help, and when you try and help other people who you can say some comforting words to on the Lovefly group and things like that, there's a number of people who are doing this daily, lots and lots of people. There's people who make it their job. The things that I've learned are now about turbulence, like, it might be uncomfortable, but it's safe and all that kind of stuff, but they do still fly through it regardless every day. My teammates at work, they're doing this every week. I've done it before multiple times. My friends do it regularly. There's hundreds of others on the same flight as me, who are doing the exact same thing as well. The same flight does the same route on a schedule again and again and again. It's the safest form of transport. And then the last one, it was like, well, I believe it's all right because I did it in the end as well. So it was like, that was my last. I tagged on once I finished, when I was kind of, finishing stuff off. But yeah, finding that, what makes you believe it's okay. I think that's part, again, training your brain for that new narrative and finding those things that you will repeat to yourself and start to retrain your brain with. And then on top of that, it was things like that preparation side. I did take a year, and I luckily had that opportunity across the year to do lots of different things and try different things and find what works for me. So the EMDR thing seemed to be the final key to unlock it. Well, as all that other education and experiencing and trying to sort of become more like a normalization of sitting next to the airport and watching the planes going in and out, etc. And then the other part was around that kind of that your energy, your physical movement side of things. That's important because the body, the physical reactions do drive emotions as well. So allowing yourself to stay in a calm physical state and learning how to control that calm physical state stops the knock-on effect into emotional states afterwards as well. I found that's something that I learned anyway. So how can you train your mind to sort of feel that future state before it even happens? Yeah, that feeling of calmness with a trigger and those kind of things, they were key things for me.
What a great list. What a great episode. Honestly, just packed full of some really nice stuff there. It was such a treat to have a couple do this as well, because you just get a sense of that difference. And I think that's it now. We're going to, all future podcasts must bring a +1. That's it. It's a new rule. I think it was really interesting. I'm really grateful to you both. And Kelly, your sort of perception on it and just sort of putting it into normal speak about what it's like and your non-judgment of Wes, I just find that really encouraging, and a lot of people I know people have split up over stuff like this, so it's it's nice to see that there is actually a way to navigate through it,
Yeah. I just want to say one last thing as well. You regularly hear people in the group, on the podcast, etc., and they're saying, I can't do it. I don't know what to do. I feel so bad about it. I know what that feels like. It's kind of how I want to reassure people that it is possible. I want you to hear me say, I know how bad that can feel. I know how much you can think to yourself, I'm never going to get over this and I can't do it, but you can. It is possible. I know it is. I've done it. From that end to this end.
What a mic drop that is.
Please kind of hear that, because as bad as you think it is, start the journey, see the little gains, see the little changes and recognize and accept they are changes, but you've got to do things differently. You can't expect things to change without obviously doing things differently.
That was great. Thank you both to you. And that was just phenomenal. Some really lovely bits in there. And yeah, I can't wait. I'll let you know when this one's coming out. But it's been some really nice bit. And I just love the partnership angle as well. That's going to be very helpful to people. And seeing you come back, and well done, Wes. I mean, I think also you're a massive endorsement for putting the time in. You spent a year doing this, and I know people have had success in the past. You've got to keep doing it, even if it's tiny stuff, rather than just kind of go, oh, I'll sod it. I'll think about it when I've come up, when it's next week. Oh, crap. So I think I love the fact you took a bit of a longer route around it, and you've made some significant progress with a lot of support.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.